It was early morning local time when rocket sirens sounded all across central Israel.
America and Israel are acting together in Iran with great determination.
Sirens just went off in Jerusalem. Missiles lit up the sky. And something else happened at the exact same time. Not in the air, not on the ground, but at a place that hasn't moved in over 500 years, the Eastern Gate. Witnesses say the stones didn't just crack, they shifted. No earthquake, no warning, no explanation. And now people are asking one question. Did prophecy just start right now? Because while the world was watching rockets streak across the sky, something far more unsettling was happening below. Security cameras near the old city walls picked up movement. At first, it looked like a shadow. Then the shadow moved again. And then the stone followed. Not falling, not breaking, but shifting. Slow, controlled, almost like pressure from the other side. Officials haven't released a full statement. Clips are being taken down as fast as they appear, but the few seconds that remain all show the same thing. The gate is no longer still. And here's what makes this even harder to ignore. This gate was never supposed to open, not by man, not by force. Ancient writings warned about this exact moment, a sealed entrance, waiting, silent, until the day it wouldn't be. And if what people are seeing is real, then this isn't just damage, this is a signal. But that's not the part that's raising alarm across the city, because just minutes after the movement was reported, something else began to happen. Something no one expected and no one can explain. Something changed and people felt it before they understood it. Not just in Jerusalem, but far beyond it. Messages started coming in. Different countries, different time zones, same reaction. A sudden sense of urgency. A feeling that something had just shifted. Some called it fear. Others called it a warning. But a few said something else. They said this moment was not random. They said this had been shown to them long before today. Because for many, Jerusalem is not just a city. It's a signal. A place where history and prophecy meet. And right now, something is happening there that doesn't fit into normal patterns. Not politics, not weather, not war. Something deeper. There are passages, ancient ones, that speak about a gate that would remain closed, untouched, sealed for generations. Not because it couldn't be opened, but because it wouldn't be, until the right moment, until the time was fulfilled. And now people are asking, what if that time is no longer in the future? What if it's now? Because the strange part isn't just the movement, it's the timing, the sirens, the tension in the region, the rising fear across nations, all happening at once, as if multiple events are lining up. Some are calling it coincidence, others are not so sure. They're pointing to a pattern that seems to repeat across history. Moments where everything feels normal until suddenly it doesn't. And this time, the center of it all is Jerusalem again. But that still doesn't explain what was detected beneath the gate, because when researchers looked closer, they didn't just find movement, they found something else, something that should not be there. To understand why this matters, you need to understand the gate itself. The Eastern Gate is not just another entrance. It is one of the oldest and most guarded points in Jerusalem. For centuries, it has remained sealed, stone over stone, layer over layer. No one passes through it, and that is not an accident. Long before modern history, ancient texts described this exact gate. They spoke about a ruler, a king who would enter the city through the east, not as a conqueror, but as someone returning. And after that moment, the gate would be shut, closed off, waiting. Not for armies, not for leaders, but for one specific event still to come. That's why, hundreds of years ago, rulers made a decision. They sealed it completely, blocked it with stone, placed barriers in front of it, even built graves nearby, believing it would stop what was written, as if stone could hold back prophecy. And for generations, nothing happened. Empires rose and fell, wars came and went, but the gate stayed still, silent, unmoving. Until now. Because what witnesses are describing isn't damage, it isn't weather, it isn't age. It's movement. And not random movement. Slow, measured, as if something is pressing from the inside. And here's what makes it even more unsettling. This is not the first time something unusual has been found here. Years ago, during a routine study, the ground beneath the gate gave way. What was discovered underneath changed everything. Another gate, older, buried, hidden beneath the one we see today. 2 layers, one above, one below. One already part of history, and one still waiting for a moment that, according to many, has not happened yet. Until now. But the discovery of a second gate isn't the part experts are struggling to explain today. Because when new scans were done recently, they didn't just reveal structure. They revealed something else entirely, something moving where nothing should be. When the first scans came in, no one reacted right away. At first, it looked like noise, interference, a glitch. But then it repeated. Same location, same depth, same pattern. Something was there, not on the surface, but behind it, deep within the stone. Engineers reviewing the data noticed something strange. The readings weren't random. They were rhythmic, like a signal, like a pulse. At regular intervals, the sensors picked up movement, not shifting rock, not collapsing space. Something steady, consistent, almost like a heartbeat. That's when the second team was called in. Different equipment, different method, same result. A pattern that should not exist inside solid stone. And it wasn't just underground. Above the gate, small details began to change. Dust falling, without wind. Chains near the wall, moving slightly on their own. At first, people ignored it. But then came the cracks. Not large, not destructive. Thin lines appearing overnight. But they didn't spread randomly. They formed shapes, lines that curved, angles that connected. Some said they looked like writing. Others said they were just fractures. But here's what made it harder to dismiss. The cracks kept appearing. Each day, a little more. Each night, slightly deeper. As if something was pushing outward, slowly, carefully. And while all of this was happening in one place, something else was being noticed far away. In different parts of the world at the exact same time each day, systems were failing. Not crashing, not breaking, just stopping for a few seconds, then returning to normal. Power grids, signals, devices, different countries, different networks, no shared system, but the timing was identical. Every single day, same moment, same duration, no clear cause. At first, it sounded like coincidence, but then someone asked a question that changed everything. What if these events aren't separate? What if they're connected? Because when the timing of those outages was compared to activity in Jerusalem, the overlap was exact. The same window, the same seconds, as if something was happening at the gate and everything else was reacting to it. But that still wasn't the most disturbing part, because as the days passed, the pattern didn't stay the same. It started to grow. At first, the pattern was small, easy to ignore. A few seconds of disruption, minor movement, subtle changes. But then it started increasing. What was once barely noticeable became impossible to dismiss. The outages that lasted seconds began to stretch longer. 7 seconds became 8, 8 became 9. Each day, a little more time was lost. No warning, no error message. Everything would just stop. Lights, signals, systems. Then suddenly return, perfectly normal, as if nothing happened. But something did happen, and people began tracking it, marking the time, counting the seconds, watching the pattern grow. Because if it continued at the same rate, it wouldn't stay small for long. And that's when concern turned into fear. Because the timing wasn't random, it followed a sequence, a steady climb, as if something was testing its limits, pushing further each day. At the same time, changes at the gate became more visible. The cracks spread wider, the lines deepened. Small fragments of stone began to fall without impact. No force from the outside, just pressure from within. And witnesses started noticing something else, a sound. Not loud, not sharp, but constant, low, rhythmic, like something moving behind the wall. At first, only a few people reported it, then more, each describing the same thing, a pulse, slow, steady, growing stronger. And then came the discovery that made even experts step back. Sensors placed near the structure picked up vibrations, but not like an earthquake, not like shifting ground. These vibrations had a pattern, a rate, measured carefully over several hours, and the result was exact: 72 beats per minute, the same as a human resting heartbeat. Let that settle in. A sealed stone gate registering a human pulse, and no one can explain why. But even that wasn't enough to convince everyone. Some still said it was coincidence, natural causes, misread data, until something happened that couldn't be ignored, something visible, something undeniable. Because one morning, just before sunrise, the gate didn't just move again, it reacted. The pulse at the eastern gate wasn't isolated. It coincided with events around the world. Satellite images captured unusual cloud formations over Jerusalem. Storms in distant countries shifted in unnatural patterns. Seismic monitors reported tremors, yet no one felt them. Pilgrims, locals, and scientists alike began noticing patterns they couldn't ignore. Flights were delayed for no reason. Power grids flickered across continents. Animals acted strangely, sensing something unseen. And then came the reports from eyewitnesses, ordinary people describing extraordinary visions. A pilot flying over the city described seeing what he called shimmering walls of light around the gate. A scientist in a nearby lab reported instruments detecting electromagnetic pulses that defy explanation. Even AI simulations flagged an anomaly, predicting events that shouldn't have been possible yet were occurring in real time. And still, the pulse continued, beating like a heart, increasing in intensity. And every new event seemed to align perfectly with the biblical references tied to the Eastern Gate. The gate wasn't just a relic of history, it was becoming a signal, a marker, a warning. And then it escalated further. Power outages began coinciding with natural disasters elsewhere. Minor tremors in Israel matched lightning strikes across Europe. Birds flew in massive patterns exactly when the gate pulsed. No one could explain the synchronization. But one thing became clear. This was no ordinary phenomenon. Something larger was awakening. Something that could not be ignored. And as people began to gather near the gate, cameras rolling, voices trembling, one thing became terrifyingly obvious. The gate was changing its shape. Not drastically, but enough to make experts panic. Small stones shifted, edges softened, a faint glow pulsed from the cracks. And that glow, it wasn't just light, it seemed to carry intention, like the gate itself was alive and watching. Then a sudden event made the world sit up and take notice, a sound that could be heard across the city, a resonance, low, vibrating, deep enough to make hearts race. And everyone realized this wasn't just a local event, it was a global signal. Something was coming, and it was inevitable. Everything pointed to one city, one gate, one inevitable moment. Governments issued warnings, but no one could explain why. Media outlets struggled to cover it. Footage of the Eastern Gate went viral, yet words failed to capture the intensity. The countdown became undeniable. 40 days. Prophetic markers aligning with ancient texts. Even secular analysts noted the coincidence, but they lacked the context. The Eastern Gate wasn't just a location, it was a focal point, a center where time, history, and prophecy intersected. As more witnesses came forward, a chilling pattern emerged. Those who approached the gate reported visions. Those who stayed at home felt unease, as if the city itself was calling them. Animals, weather, and even electronics reacted in sync with the gate's pulse. The world's eyes turned toward Jerusalem. Social media exploded with footage, clouds swirling unnaturally above the city, lightning striking distant mountains, and subtle shifts in the stones of the gate itself. Religious leaders issued statements, some fearful, some awed. They cited Ezekiel, Zechariah, and other prophets, all hinting that the Eastern Gate would play a role in the last days. Meanwhile, scientists and AI researchers struggled to explain the phenomena. Radars detected energy surges. Seismic monitors recorded perfect timing with local pulses. Even satellite imagery suggested something beyond natural laws. And as tension mounted, the countdown ticked closer. Every day felt heavier, every pulse more urgent. The world was converging, unknowingly, on a single truth. Jerusalem, the Eastern Gate, and the signs of an impending event that could alter history forever. But what would happen when the gate fully awakened, and who or what would emerge when the convergence reached its peak? And then it happened. The Eastern Gate began to move, not like a door opening, but like it was breathing. Stones shifted slightly, resonating with a low hum that seemed to vibrate through the entire city. The pulse wasn't just felt by humans. Birds flew erratically, dogs barked uncontrollably, and the air itself seemed charged with electricity. Eyewitnesses described impossible visions, figures appearing and disappearing in flashes of light, shadows moving independently as if reality itself was bending, clouds forming patterns that mirrored ancient prophetic symbols. Scientists were baffled. Their instruments recorded surges that defied all known physics. Radar scans showed anomalies, energy fields pulsing in ways that shouldn't exist. Even satellite imagery suggested something beyond natural laws.